Well, hello there and welcome. My name is Kylie Patchett and I'm your host, and welcome to the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast. This show is all about sharing the real and raw stories from women who have undergone midlife metamorphosis, taken a leap of faith, or broken the ties that bind them in patterns of staying stuck, small, and like their needs don't matter. You see, I believe that the years leading up to and during menopause are a rite of passage, a deep invitation after so many years of giving our time, attention, and energy to others to carve out the same time, energy, and attention in ourselves, in our health, our love, our connection, our vitality, our purpose, our real needs and deep desires. You know, those ones lying dormant underneath all the duty, responsibility, pushing, striving, and achieving of our 20s and 30s? You see, at this stage in our lives, we find ourselves shifting identity potentially, no longer caring as much what other people think, and left wondering why on earth we have not given ourselves permission to do life in the way we truly want to. In this show, I speak to the women brave enough to truth talk their own midlife shedding skin stories, and the healers and helpers who help them transition through these crossroads of change. This is the midlife magic you didn't even know you needed, and I am so freaking glad you found us. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful people. It's Kylie here. It's been a long time since we did a solo ep, and today I've got something on my mind. I've just arrived at my desk. It is 12:29. Very late in the day for me to be starting my work day. And it is because I have really anchored in something very, very important to me at the moment. So you guys know that I have had my share of perimenopausal mental health and mood ups and downs over the last few months. And you also would know, if you're a regular listener of this podcast, that there's been a lot of different things that I've done self-care wise, with the view to locking in all of the lifestyle influenceable components of taking care of ourselves. So I have a self-care list that I've committed to. Actually, I've got one right here. If you're watching the video version, you can see I tick it off, and my aim is for 80% of those things done. Now, that may not be your style. That's just something that really helps my brain to see that I'm committing to something. That's actually something that I will talk about in a whole other episode. So my ADHD/autism brain loves a bit of gamification. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. So you'll know that I locked in these self-care measures, and they are definitely working to improve the foundation from which I experience the ups and downs. And one of the things that really hit me this week, I was doing a session with a beautiful client who basically, her onboarding questionnaire had some really bloody strong self-disgust, I'm going to say loathing. That's not the word that she used, but disgust was something that she really used. And it was something that, when we dived into it, on the surface level, what she was wanting to talk about was her not like being able to take care of everybody else and their needs, but not actually being able to take care of her own. Now, on the surface, you could say, well, here's the self-care things. Let's just lock and load them. Let's, commit to them, and that will make it all different and better. But with a little bit of digging and a combination of coaching and healing techniques. So she was doing what's called an alchemy session with me, which is a 90-minute session where you come with one kind of thing that you really want to flip or change, and we dive into getting clear on the reasons why and what the barriers are and how we can influence the things that we can influence to try and overcome those barriers. What came up in this session was such a strong story of generational trauma, of a very strong flavor of having a narcissistic, in this case, actually grandmother, who then flavored the way that the mother was brought up, which then obviously then was passed down to the client that I was working with. And she is a healer herself. And this is not uncommon with healers and helpers. So a lot of us healers and helpers are very good at taking care of everybody else, but not at asking for support or receiving for ourselves. That session really, really stayed with me. We were able to go back using a combination. It was a bit of a strange combination that came out in that session, but because she's already a healer, she's very familiar with energy in the body. So we did a combination of an energy healing, a hypnotherapy, and a timeline technique with some tapping all rolled in together. Anyway, it doesn't matter how that we unpicked it. The reason that I wanted to share that with you today is that I've got the doors to Soothe open at the moment, and Soothe is a 28-day self-care immersion for women in perimenopause or women that are in midlife that may not have even identified they're in perimenopause, but they're realizing that their needs are changing. So their emotional needs, their spiritual needs, they're asking questions like, what the fuck? What is next? Is this really all there is to life, et cetera, et cetera? Their physical being is changing, and they're starting to feel increasingly, I keep on coming back to this word, discombobulated. So 1 minute you're feeling good, the next minute you're feeling, you've fallen off a confidence cliff, or 1 minute your sleep is fine and the next minute you're not sleeping well at all. 1 minute you've got the energy to go and do the run that you used to do, and the next minute you've got no energy even to get out of bed. And this up and down landscape that starts to happen when our hormones start to shift, and that has a lot of on-flow effect to our mind, our body, and our soul. So not just the physicality, but also what our soul is calling us to do. When I sat down to design Soothe, I was really tempted to do what I would normally do when I design a course and program. It's like, what's the problem, in inverted commas? What are the steps to go from where you have the problem to when you solve the problem, also in inverted commas, if you're listening to the audio version of this, and what are the steps that you need to take? And when Soothe came to me and I dreamt about her, I dreamt about the word soothe. And when it came to me in the middle of the night, the whole concept of the feeling and the intention behind Soothe is to be able to meet your needs, to actually understand and appreciate your needs and respond to them as readily as you would if you walked into a room and there was a little teeny tiny baby laying in a crib, wow, I just turned American, in a cot, and they were red in the face and, that real, really, really, really stressed sounding. Now, if you're not a baby person, this might not be the best analogy, but this is how it came to me. What's your automatic response to that little baby? Most of us would pick the baby up, start to shake the baby, not shake, rock the baby. Maybe we would say shh. So those soothing sounds. We might unwrap the baby if we thought the baby was hot, or we might cuddle the baby up further if we felt like the baby wasn't warm enough, or it was startling itself with its startle response and it was like, kind of on edge about something. If the baby was in a room where there was a lot of sound or a lot of demand on it, like, lots of siblings running in and out, or a really loud rock concert or something, we may do things like moving the baby to a different environment, or, covering its ears. I actually was at something the other day, a meat stock, which is like pardon me if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, but it's a festival of meat. Let's just tell it like it is. And it has music and stuff. And I saw this family and they had little baby twins, and both of them had these big, big coverage, like earmuffs, I'm trying to say. And I thought, I remember I took my eldest daughter, Abby, to a concert when she was very, very young. And we had foam earplugs, but I ended up wrapping around like an extra like snuggle wrap around her head. And she actually wasn't worried about it at all. She just slept straight through it. And now I look at her and go, yes, she is one of those kids that literally can sleep through anything, as is my younger daughter. Anyway, I digress. So what my intention behind Soothe is that we could actually, as easily as we could when there was a baby in distress, and we would pick them up, we would respond to their needs, we would try and work out what they needed. If they're being traumatized or worried by something, we would remove them. If they needed to be fed, we would feed them. If they needed their bum changed, we would change their bum. Now, hopefully not changing your own bum, but, sometimes. But the point behind Soothe is that as perimenopausal people, that we have the ability, just as easily as we could respond to the baby in that analogy, to actually connect to what we needed moment to moment and have the tools to actually respond. And those tools are including every single thing in my arsenal of everything I've ever learned. So everything from sleep and respiratory science, traditional Chinese medicine, meridians, shiatsu, oriental psychology, all the way to mindset coaching techniques like NLP and internal family systems, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy. And then also, and I feel like this is the key thing that in my own healing journey I had missed until only just the last couple of years, is folding in physical body and breath tools so that we're not just working with the mind and trying to figure things out or unhook old beliefs, but we're also accessing our needs and our desires and our heartfelt want through our bodies, connecting to our heart, trusting our gut. So many women still cannot do that. And that's a big edge for me at the moment. And so using things like emotional freedom techniques, chakra balancing, tapping on meridians, being able to access the breath and be able to either cool and calm ourselves, or if we're feeling really flat in mood, to rise up the energy and to understand that often what we actually need is not as complicated as we make it out to be, but it does take you paying attention. And so if you imagine the baby in the room with that crying, imagine being as, the word that's coming to me is committed, but it's not actually the right word, as readily able to respond and as willingly able to respond to your own needs as what you would that baby. I guess when I had this kind of moment in the middle of the night about Soothe and what Soothe wanted to be, and I do feel like these ideas come to me and they're not from me. They're definitely like, I don't know, my mind just opens and something drops into them. The word soothe, even that, when I say that out loud, my entire body just wants to like relax into jelly and So here's what's on my mind today. Soothe, the immersion, starts tomorrow, the 20th of April, 2023. I'm recording this on the 19th of April. And the reason I decided to do this episode is because I've had a few conversations with women thinking about joining Soothe, and there's some common themes that are coming up. So this episode is entitled, I Don't Have Time, and Other Big Fat Fibs about us being able to take care of ourselves in midlife. That's probably not going to be the title because it's way too long. But anyway, let's just go with it. So here's the things that I notice in myself, in my clients, in my friends, in just having conversations with people. Like I was in the main street the other day and someone said, oh, I see you do some kind of body coaching, something or other. Can you tell me a bit more about that? And she's like, oh, I don't have time to do all of that for myself. Because this person is definitely identified as, the caretaker, the one that has to look. So she's like the PTA president, and then she does XYZ at SES and XYZ at this. And, one of those people that's a real community leader, which is totally fine. But interestingly, she can find all of the time and energy to give to everything else. But then the surface level objection is I don't have time. So I'm going to go through these pretty quick and dirty. What I'm going to propose to you is that self-care in midlife is even more important. And if we do not Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. Take care of our own needs at this time in our life. It comes at a massive cost, and the cost is missing the opportunity to shed old shit, to heal any old stories, to reset what we will and won't be available for, and actually be able to move into the second stage of our life when we finally get through this perimenopausal portal. Short may it be, but my fear is I'm only about a 10th of the way through this portal, and that we can step into the next stage of our lives wild and finally fucking free to just be ourselves. So here are the reasons why women don't take care of themselves. Okay, we have for decades numbed our feelings. So and I've talked about this on this podcast before, my drug of choice was always food. Other people's drugs and alcohol, social media scrolling, dramatizing, add to cart, Netflix. Like, as soon as I say numbing, you will know what your numbing thing is. And one of the things that came up in this same session is the numbing behavior was sitting above a huge concern about, if I allow myself to feel, am I going to be able to handle that? And that is absolutely the same as my story. And it's interesting now that I've done a lot of work around disconnecting feeling and going to the fridge to try and numb that down. And I think that's actually why there has been a lot more mood and mental health stuff, because I'm kicking the addiction to food as a soothing mechanism. And so I'm feeling more, and that is actually forcing me to find other ways to soothe myself, which is good, painful, and really very inconvenient at times, let's face it, but still. So numbing behaviors. So that actually stops us taking care of ourselves because we're not actually feeling anything. And so how can you respond to your own needs if you won't actually let yourself actually feel, maybe the tiredness or the dissatisfaction or the lack of fulfillment or the anger that you won't express because you're playing the good girl game or whatever. So numbing's number one. Number two, conditioning. So I still haven't got my sticky notes. Imagine that in your snow globe of childhood conditioning. So definitely between the ages of 0 and 7, less so 7 and 14, you are imprinted with a role, and that role is a sticky note. And we hope that all children that ever live are given a sticky note that says, be happy, follow your heart, do what feels right for you. And we know damn well that in the majority of families, not blaming anyone for this, that we are given different roles. Now, roles like playing the good girl, being expected to play the good girl, being a people pleaser, being a caretaker, even being the rebel, which sounds like it's like something for you because you're pushing back against something. But actually, when you are given the role to play of the rebel, sometimes you don't want to rebel. So still, you're not connecting to your authentic self. So you're still playing the game of being the rebel, particularly for the good girls, the people pleasers, and the caretakers. Guess what that comes with? It comes with conditioning that says you must take care of everyone else's needs first. And by definition, most of the time that means there is no time or space or emotional bandwidth to take care of your own needs. Identity is a big thing, and I think that that's the thing that I'm working on the most at the moment. One of the things that's in my calendar is no appointments before 10 a.m. I am committed to being, feeling, and acting like a well woman. Now, that will mean different things to different people, but because I am so committed to the edge for me, which is finding this solid ground where self-care is an essential part of what I do for myself, and that all of that self-care combines to this identity of being a well woman. Now, to be clear, my identity as a well woman does not mean, therefore, magically my perimenopause symptoms will go away. What it does mean is that I'm much more connected to my body, I'm much more connected to my heart, and I'm much more connected to my soul, so that I have a much better chance and a more even keel of cutting through the bullshit that says, no, I can't put my needs first. And therefore, my identity is shifting. So think about, if you're saying to yourself, I hate the way that this is feeling, like I'm feeling all over the place, or my moods are bad, or my sleep is bad, or whatever. But the identity piece is not kind of locked in yet. And it may not be that you want to be a well woman. Maybe the identity is just perimenopause is giving me a chance to get to know myself better. It doesn't have to be as extreme as being a well woman. But if your identity is someone who, I guess it comes back to the sticky notes, if you are always doing something for other people, it is going to be very, very uncomfortable for you to try and emphasize doing something for yourself. Number 4, leaky boundaries. So, I feel like boundaries is having a big buzzword in the world of coaching, healing, trauma, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, when I think about boundaries, it is the difference between what is and is not mine to take responsibility for. And here's what I'm realizing, and this has definitely been a perimenopause invited thing. Now, it is also partly because my kids are grown, they're both out of school. One's at home, one's not, but both are very independent. So I'm saying this with the full knowledge that your experience of where you are in life, and also the age of your kids, if you have any, or what your responsibilities are, can be quite different. I will also say that part of my journey through perimenopause has been realizing where I was getting up in everybody else's business, which was giving me the secondary gain, if we try and emphasize coaching speak, the secondary gain for me of getting up in everyone else's business was I wasn't taking responsibility for me. So if my story is I have to, pack lunches for everybody else, or always cook the dinner, or always do stuff around the house, or, be the one that's at work first and leaves last, whatever. If I am over delivering or overstepping or sticking my nose in everyone else's business, then one of the things that there's an invitation to look at is where your boundaries are. So what is and is not your responsibility? Because if you're like me and you're using leaky boundaries and overstepping as an excuse to not take care of yourself, guess where that's going to lead to? It's going to lead to, trust me, and you will know, resentment, anger, frustration, irritability. Because if you've got a story that you have to do it, but you really don't want to do it, and you're doing things through obligation, guess what? It comes out as unspoken, uncommunicated, really shitty emotion. Food for thought. Low self-worth. Okay, so I asked this client the other day, where are you sitting? If we imagine that there was this, a fairground game, if you can think of those ones where you've got a big hammer and you're banging it down on that button, and the arm kind of swings up, and what you're aiming to do is get to a 10 out of 10 of I can feel the most nourished, the most well-resourced, the most well version of myself. And I asked this client, where on that 0 to 10, if you imagine 10 is hitting the hammer and going ding, 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 ding at the top and everything lighting up like a fairground game. And 0 is you haven't even got any sort of movement in the hammer. Where would you be sitting? Now, her answer was about a 3. And why I ask that question is often the way that we are opening our arms and hearts to receive things, and our capacity to receive feeling good is also our capacity to receive other things. So rest, money, connected relationships, full support, nourishment of any perspective. If we have a low sense of self, and let's just be honest, perimenopause is going to exacerbate any shitty, heavy, negative pattern that you've got. That's certainly been my experience lately. So if you've got low self-worth, that could absolutely be getting in your way of actually taking care of yourself, because you're already thinking, I'm not worth receiving. I'm not worth feeling good. If you're sitting at a 3 out of 10 of how good I can feel, guess where your self-care is going to sit? It's going to sit at 3 or below. So withholding love and acceptance from yourself through low self-worth is absolutely a pattern. Feeling selfish. Let's talk about that one. Feeling selfish. God, I think we all know that feeling like self-care is selfish is logically not correct. But if we've been taught by our caregivers or people, particularly in our early years snow globe, if we've been taught that taking care of ourselves is selfish, it's like you're trying to give to yourself and your brain is saying, ding, 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 no, this is not okay. You are not allowed to take care of yourself, because the story that I'm going to tell you is that you're selfish, and that is going to stop people liking you, loving you, accepting you, feeling like you're a good person, etc. Now, we know that if your sense of worth is sitting outside of yourself, then you are never, ever, ever going to be free, and you're never, ever, ever going to be in power. That's a whole other conversation. But the whole concept of feeling like it's selfish to take care of yourself, and even going so far as to say, if I take care of myself, I'm letting other people down. I'm going to be really provocative, because this was one of mine. That was one of my stories. And every time I said, I can't go to the gym, that's not right, that means I'll be working, I'll start work later, and that affects, what I can do for clients, and that affects money, and that affects this, and that affects that. Every single person around me, my husband, all of the people that I really care about were like, yeah, but when you take care of yourself and you go to the gym, and my normal routine in the morning is move, meditate / journal, whatever it feels like, lunch outside if it's a nice enough day, which at the moment is absolutely spectacular weather here, and then a shower, make sure I take all my morning tablets / supplements, and then I arrive at my desk. The people around you are a much better. Actually, that's not a clear thing to say. For me, I know that when my brain is trying to tell me I'm selfish, if I run it past someone who truly, truly, truly loves me unconditionally, like my husband, he will often tell me the opposite. So if you've got a person like that and you are doubting your own filter, check in with someone else. What else have we got here? Often what comes up in sessions is that I'm thinking my way out of something. So if I feel crappy, then I'm trying to think my way out of shifting my state. And I would say, that old Albert Einstein quote, if you keep on doing, no, you can't change something from the energy that took to create it. So often our blocks about self-care come from our brain, actually almost always. Whereas if we actually say, you know what, I can feel like I need to think my way out of this, but maybe I might try and emphasize just feeling something. So feeling into doing a few gentle hip circles and going, good morning. How do you actually feel today? And actually taking the time to check in on your heart space. Doesn't have to be 20 minutes, doesn't have to be an hour. It can literally be a 2-minute little check-in. Okay. So, and then you can spot the emotion. So I am feeling angry. The story I'm telling myself is da, 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 da. And so then you are starting to separate and giving yourself a different way of accessing what's going on through your body rather than through your brain. The only other thing that I wrote down, actually, there's 2 things. So I've talked about withholding love and acceptance from ourselves, so don't worry about that one. And the other thing that has come up in the conversations is I don't want to actually join something that feels like it's something else to do. So I totally understand. I feel like I've got a big pair of, like electronic hedge trimmers, and I'm just going through my life going zoom, zoom, zoom. Sounded like Luke Skywalker then. But as in, I'm trimming everything, trimming all the fat, trimming the things that I don't have to do, trimming things that don't feel essential, trimming things that don't feel good at the moment. I've had to cancel on some social engagements in the last couple of weeks that I feel really, really bad about not going to, and I was really looking forward to. And there were things that are celebrating people that I really love and care about. And still, my need for quiet time and introspective time and time to myself just to allow my moods to balance out a little bit more were more important at the time. And I think that that's something that's difficult for us perfectionists / people pleasers. And actually also, as I'm talking to you, something else that's coming to my mind is that one was difficult for me. And I've also cancelled podcast interviews and taken a break from podcasting, although I'm doing a solo app today because I felt called to. But the thing about being honest about your capacity is you are also building self-trust. So my way of dealing with something that I should in inverted commas, go to, is to just push on through and go. And it would have come at a cost. And I'm not willing to pay the cost anymore. And that's partly because I'm clearer with my needs, but it's also partly because I will not make my needs less important than other people. And when you're honest with people about what you can and can't do, and I've been very upfront, I've said, I just mentally, I feel challenged at the moment. I'm really, really tired, and I'm just feeling like I want to be in my cave and I want to hibernate. Every single one of the people that I had to cancel on has said, thank you for letting me know. Let's rebook. So no harm, no foul. And if you try and emphasize you can always trust the timing of your life, then you just do what feels right, and then everything works out anyway, right? So if you're feeling like self-care is just something else to do, I totally understand. I will also say that one of the things that we've talked about, so numbing, conditioning, identity, leaky boundaries, low self-worth, feeling like it's selfish, and just feeling like it's something else to do. Actually, there is 2 others that I haven't talked about. So very quickly, something else that I've been asking myself is, do I have a reference point from my younger life of a woman who takes care of herself? Now, I don't actually think I've got a reference point of anyone taking care of themselves, so male or female, but I'm going to ask you specifically about women. So were you lucky enough to have a mum or an auntie or an older sister or family friend that actually put their needs first? And particularly in this perimenopause, like if not before, particularly in perimenopause, do you have a reference point of a woman who has harnessed this midlife portal to actually step into less of who she isn't anymore? So shedding skin, shedding obligations, shedding rules, shedding roles, and being more unapologetically herself. And if you don't have that reference point, of course, it's going to feel uncomfortable to think about it. But I believe the time is now for us to reset the example for our daughters. And I really look back at some of my younger years as a mum, and I think, wow, I really, really showed my girls a lot of pushing and not paying attention to your energy and not, overworking and overstepping boundaries. But it's not too late. And if we are aware of something, and this is why I'm recording this episode, at least you have the choice of, I'm going to take care of myself or not. And then the final thing I will say, if you feel like this is just something else to do, is can you ask what's underneath that? Because I'm almost sure, I've tried this out many times in the last few weeks as I've been feeling into SOOTHE as a container for people. I'm almost sure that there will be something else underneath it, which is one of these things. Now, the final thing I will say, I've been doing a lot of reading on trauma and depression, mental health disorders in the perimenopausal years. And there is a lot of evidence to say, especially I have been listening to the work of Dr. Kulkarni, who does a lot of work in menopause in general and mental health in menopause specifically. And her work tells us that if you have had depression before, if you have a family history of depression, if you are suffering or have suffered from bad PMT or PMDD, so post premenopausal oh my goodness, PMDD, I'll put it in the show notes, or you have had any form of trauma in your childhood. Now, I would say that's almost anyone, but what she's talking about in the episodes of podcasts I've been listening to is significant childhood trauma. There is a strong likelihood that you will be challenged by mental health ups and downs, at least, if not depression or anxiety or something more significant than that. Something that stopped me taking care of my own needs up until now is this really, really strong fear that if I stop to actually feel that, I've got goosebumps. If I stop to actually feel that I would not be able to cope with the amount and the intensity of the feelings. It's like in my mind, I had my feeling center as this Pandora's box. And as soon as I opened Pandora's box, there was no way I could put a lid on it again. I can only share my experience. And what I will say is that some of the greatest gift of this transition period has been getting professional support and feeling and processing and using my body to move through the feelings that I was trying to avoid all this time, become much better at self-advocacy, so not putting myself in harm's way around people that can trigger me, being much more aware of my emotional bandwidth, asking for what I need. And all of those things have come from having the support and the courage to actually feel. So much stuff that I've kept under the surface. And I'm sure there's much, much, much more where that came from. And there is absolutely a role in, professional support. I'm very, very, very grateful to have access and the ability to have a support team, including a psychologist and a psychiatrist, a GP, a small group of friends that I feel that I can be 100% open and honest with, and a beautiful husband. Thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God for husbands who are willing to walk alongside this perimenopause ride. And all I can say is, if, like me and like the client I was working with early in this week, you are fearful of feeling, the very thing that you're most afraid of feeling is directly proportional to the amount of freedom and healing that is available if you allow yourself, with support, always with support, to feel and release some of that pain and hurt. And a big thing that's come up in my conversations with my, one particular friend, we're both writing a lot at the moment, and we're writing lots of stuff that's incredibly painful. But the thing is that again and again, we're shown that writing it, getting out of your system, speaking about it to each other, it's like the shame and the guilt and all the heavy shit actually is healed by bringing it out into the light. So that is my long and waffly way of saying that if you're withholding love and acceptance and care and soothing from yourself, to just get gently, it's not an episode of making you wrong, and please don't take it like that, because you don't need to feel wrong about anything else. I'm sure you're doing a great job of that already. But if you are discombobulated about the ups and downs and the sideways of how your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self is feeling in this crazy ride of perimenopause, and you feel like you would like a safe place to land, we can learn to actually connect to what your heart is calling for, what your physical body is wanting, and what your emotional landscape needs from you if you want to be able to calm and soothe and breathe your way into shifting your state. If you want to understand your body's signals a little bit more, and you want to do that in a way that does not feel like extra things to do, that actually is something in your calendar that you look forward to. SOOTHE is open at the moment. It's the 19th today. Our first session is 6 a.m. on the 20th of April. At the moment, at the point of me recording this, which may change, at the point of me recording this, there is actually 3 spots for a one-on-one session in addition to SOOTHE. So if you join SOOTHE and you email me or you message me on any form of social media, and it will go in, time that I get the message, time that the message is time-stamped. If you join SOOTHE and you're the next 3 people, then I'm offering you a 90-minute alchemy session, which is the healing and coaching session that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. And we can work through something that feels like it's really too hard basket or inaccessible, something that feels like it's an old story that you want to be free of. And that session is usually $325. So it's a massive bonus. And SOOTHE, if you're thinking about what the heck actually is it, because I haven't talked to you about the features yet, is a 28-day immersion. We meet twice a week, so 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Brisbane time. If you're looking at time zone conversions, it's all on the sales page. And in those sessions, you will be learning mind, body, and breath tools for connecting to your needs, for responding to them, and being able to really, really simply get much more access to what's really going on. And we have a bonus Q&A session, which this month is with the beautiful Jodie Priest. And if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know Jodie already. She is a really beautiful friend of mine. I'm very blessed to be connected to Jodie. And what I've asked her to come and talk to us about is body image and self-image. And if you know Jodie's story, my apologies for repeating, but Jodie went through an absolute clusterfuck of a year in 2018. And just one of the traumatic things that happened in that year was that she had a double mastectomy and a DIEP flap, so reconstruction of breasts from her stomach tissue, a huge operation. She also then went through chemo, so she lost her hair. And what she has been writing about and also will be sharing with us is the journey that she took to connect to what it means to be a woman when you have no breasts and no hair, and to stay connected to the beautiful body that she's in when there's been so much trauma associated with her body. And I tell you what, I've been privileged to read some of the work that she's been doing in this space, and it's literally perspective shifting for me, and I know it will be for you. In addition to all of that, you get access to a huge range of resources, my self-care guide for perimenopause, and you will have access to the 8 sessions live via replay. So if you can't join us live, that's totally fine. And you will have access to all of that for the whole lifetime of this program. Price point is $333 AUD, which is like $2.50 if you're in US. No, I jest. I wanted to keep it really accessible. So if you think about that in terms of hours of delivery time, it's a very, very reasonable investment. And the beauty of this work is that it's not just for the container of time we're together. This is actually learning how to imagine yourself as that innocent little baby who's just got needs, just to be listened to and responded to be soothed, to be loved, to be accepted, to not have to do anything or achieve anything before you would gift self-care or care to the baby. So here's to having the knowledge and the access to the support and the community, but also the self-care tools to help you build a more solid foundation for riding the ups and downs of this perimenopausal roller coaster. I do put on the sales page very clearly what SOOTHE does and doesn't include, but basically it includes everything inside of my expertise and nothing outside of it. So SOOTHE is not specifically about menopause nutrition. It is not specifically about, getting a menopause strength training program or anything, but we will be covering everything inside of my expertise, which is sleep, yoga for the stages of menopause, using yoga to access the brain and bone health specific things that we need at this time in our life, all of the coaching modalities that I've talked about, things like tapping, breathwork, emotional freedom technique, all of those things that you can come and learn live and then use again and again and again. So we start tomorrow, 6 a.m. That means you've got less than 24 hours to join us. I hope that you have heard some of the reasons why this might feel a little bit challenging to you, and I've been able to shift the story a little bit. So I'd love to welcome you into SOOTHE. I'd love to have you walk alongside this journey. Actually, one thing that I also wanted to say, this is not a huge group program. It's small self-care immersion. So we're talking about probably 10 people or less. And that is really special because you actually develop quite a connection and intimacy when you can feel safe enough to share what is really troubling you. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you for tuning into the podcast. Here's to season 2, whenever it feels like I've got some space and grace to do that. I really want to focus on Soothe. So we'll probably be back in your, earballs around about first or second week of May. So until then, beautiful. See you later. Thanks so much for listening into today's episode. If you love the show, as I hope you do, please take the time to subscribe on your favorite pod listening platform and rate and review. And for bonus points, if you have a friend or someone who popped to mind as you were listening to this episode, why not hit the share link wherever you're listening and send them a little love bomb. Like, listen to this. Did you know this is normal? I really, really, really would love to get these beautiful stories into the hearts and ears and minds of so many more midlife mavens. And your help spreading the love is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm Kylie Patchett, your host, and have a spectacular day.